When I go to Sacramento, I will pump up Sacramento.
Some say the news is fake. Others say it's real. These two don't have the time to check. Instead, Turner Sparks and Michael Ira Kaplan turn to comics stationed around the globe to be their eyewitness reporters so that you can know what's really going on. This is Lost in America.
All right, everybody, welcome to Lost in America, episode 203. My name's Turner Sparks.
And I am Michael Kaplan at Cap in America.
Whoa, I usually give your credit.
I wanted to get out of the way. I'm blowing up on Twitter these days, so I wanted to keep it moving, keep it going. The Armenians love me. What's your handle?
You can find me. Well, you can find me at turnersparks.com. But most importantly, buy my album, Turner Sparks Live from the Friars Club. I recorded it at the Friars Club in New York City. It's available worldwide. So if you're listening right now in Poland, if you're listening in Armenia, which I know you are, if you're listening in New Zealand, any of our recent episodes, buy that, get the album, support the show, support me, support the show. But other ways, if you're watching us right now on YouTube, guess what? We're also a podcast. Listen to our podcast. Subscribe in your podcast player. If you're listening to the podcast, subscribe to us on YouTube. Come on, we got to double our views. We want to double the audience. And
we want to double our views without
show.
Doubling the audience.
Exactly. We want to double our views without doubling. It's harder to get more people.
Exactly.
It's easier to get one person to download twice.
Exactly.
Kaplan. Our Patreons, we're doing 3 extra episodes a week on Patreon. That is, this is Lost in America. That show's called Live from the Bunker. That is you and me talking. Sometimes we do wrap-ups of this show on that. So, like last week, we had Vodka James. He lived in Azerbaijan. He's a listener. He lived in Azerbaijan for a year working for BP Oil. So he called in and he said, hey, I got something to add about that Armenia-Azerbaijan story. Let me come on. And we said, you have the floor, Vodka James.
Sometimes we do that. Sometimes we talk about how my kid is in a class with 30 other kids now because of how the New York City is handling the coronavirus school situation. Sometimes we talk about you meet some very interesting characters. Going to get a milkshake in New York City turns into a whole adventure. So we've got you learn about our daily lives here in New York. It's some interesting stuff. Plus we do wrap ups. So you subscribe.
And the way you can subscribe, go to patreon.com/Lost in America. For $5 a month, you get 3 episodes of me and Kaplan a week, plus this show. So that's 4 episodes a week of the two of us. Plus, we have a great deal going on right now. Everyone knows. Listen, there's been parades up and down the streets of Manhattan for us because we went to #1 in Armenia a couple weeks ago. Well, to commemorate that.
Yes.
You know how like when the Lakers or the Bulls, somebody wins an NBA championship, boom, immediately they have merchandise.
Merch is out. There's an ad comes out on TV, like immediately. Get your Warriors hats.
Well, we're doing the same.
We're cranking it out.
We are making Lost in America t-shirts that say #1 in Armenia.
Exactly.
How about that? For $10.
Yeah, go on.
Those are in process right now being made. They're in production. We're going to be debuting those designs, the t-shirts on next week's show. But for a $10 subscription to our Patreon show, if you sign up for $10 a month, patreon.com/Lost in America, you get those 3 extra episodes. Plus, boom, we'll mail you a t-shirt. How about that? Lost in America, #1 in Armenia. Or if you just want the t-shirt, if you're sick of hearing us blab, for $25 you can get the t-shirt. But why not sign up for $10 a month at patreon.com/Lost in America? Get a t-shirt. Plus,
and you bet the backlog of over 100 episodes we've done, the entire history of the quarantine. A lot of great episodes there. And yeah, you talk to you've got factory connections in China. They're churning out a lot of these shirts. We're very confident. We don't want this to be a situation when when the team loses in the Super Bowl and you see a bunch of kids in Africa wearing so we don't want a bunch of kids in Africa to be wearing #1 in Armenia shirts. We want to give these to fans.
Yes. So, well, if our fans are in Africa, that's fine.
Yeah, we have plenty of fans in Africa, of course. But we especially when we do an episode there. So yeah, order those immediately. It's a great deal. $10 a month. There you go. Free shirt.
On the show today, last thing, sorry, you can watch this show on Wednesdays at 9 p.m. Eastern on Twitch/Comedy Hub. We'll get talk more about that next week. But every week now. We're going live on Twitch on Wednesdays at 9 p.m. Eastern to debut the video of this episode. Plus, Kaplan and I will be in the chat. So you can talk to us and watch this show with us. All right, let's get to our guest, Kaplan.
Yes.
What's
the episode this week?
This week, we're talking about Poland, the great country of Poland. We have one of our favorite, our number one favorite Polish comedian. Sorry, Irish. I'm not sure if he's Irish or Polish, but he lives in Poland. Yes. Piotrek Szumowski is on the show today. Kaplan, before we bring him in, tell me, what do you know about Poland?
I mean, well, first off, the Kaplinski clan, we part of us are from Belarus, part of us are from Poland. So my whole life, so when I was growing up, I used to my grandfather would tell me Polish jokes, and I felt like I could tell them because I was part Polish in a way. And so but then I know that people stopped telling the Polish jokes because Poland got trendy. You know, it became the new Prague, the new whatever. People were going to
the new Berlin.
People were going to party there. They would vacation there. It was cooler than saying you went anywhere else. And Western Europe's boring. Poland was in, but then things started taking a turn in the past few years. Started like a hard right turn.
Which I didn't even know about. Just to back you up there, I knew a couple guys, jazz musicians. They were all moving to Poland. That was like, it was the new Orleans, apparently. It was like you go down to Warsaw, you play a little music, all of a sudden you get discovered. Next thing, I don't know what happens to jazz musicians when they get popular, but whatever. You can live out your life as a Polish jazz musician.
Yeah, that sounds like
the way it goes. And then, as you said, somewhere along the way it turns. I found out about this turn about 3 weeks ago. Yeah. I think you found out about it a couple years ago, but I know Trump loves their leadership. Yeah. Joe Biden does not. That's kind of as far as I know. I know they have a leader that, what I found out about was something with like these anti-LBGTQ zones in the country.
Yes. And
some far-right leadership is empowered. That's all I know. Should we get our guest on?
And I know, it's become sort of like we did New Zealand last week, which is the cool place to travel if you're a liberal right now to move. Poland's kind of the opposite because they just banned abortion, basically, is what we learned.
Oh, so that's tough for college kids.
That's tough for it's not a place to go party if there's no abortions, and not a good place to flee America. So Piotrek
Szumowski, welcome to the show. How you doing, man?
How's it going, guys? There's a lot to unpack there. There's a lot of information you just said, and I was almost making notes there.
Oh, great. We like to pack it in and then have you just unpack all our errors and everything.
And I want to give you a proper introduction. So I tried to look up a lot of your information online, and a lot of it was in Polish, so I couldn't read it. So apologies. But every video I've seen of yours on YouTube has like 3 million views. So you're doing something right. Are you touring? You're touring Europe. You're touring, I guess, Poland. I want to get into that later. How you're touring Poland, if you're going into these what zones you're allowed to perform. But how do you go ahead.
I don't know. I was just answering the question. How's it going in terms of the career? I mean, Poland has a very small stand-up scene, right? So it's enough just to be here. Do you know what I mean? Like if you guys were here, you would have 1 million views as well. It's just there's not a lot of us. So without competition, everyone's good. And in terms of traveling around the world, I mean, I did a tour around the world, which lasted 409 days where I gigged in like 30 countries, but that was never really recorded. And it was more of an adventure that I just, I was a kid and I was just, doing stand-up everywhere I could. And that finished like 3 or 4 years ago. And ever since then, I've been performing in Poland.
And was that when we hung out in 2015, as you reminded
me? That would be about right. Yeah. In about 2015, 16.
In New York City.
And Turner does not remember this. We should clear up with the audience. You meet so many people. You party so much with the comics.
I was in New York for 5 days. I was highly jet lagged. My wife was asleep the whole time. She could barely leave to get up to come watch the show.
It didn't seem like you had a wife when we hang down.
We were flying in from Shanghai and here for a very limited time. But so anyway, so what's going on in Poland? When did this change happen? It seemed it was like the super cool place to be. Now everything we read's negative. What went on?
Look, I mean, I don't know how much you know about Poland in terms of like the geopolitical situation, the history, the tradition and all that. But right now it's all coming to a head with the abortion laws, right? which means that 3 days ago, I think, or maybe 4 days ago, the main constitutional tribunal, I don't know if I'm translating that right, but I'm talking about like the guys who are above the main guys in the justice. That's it,
Yeah.
right?
Supreme Court.
And they basically banned abortion when it comes to sorry, again, my English is slipping. I haven't spoken in a while. I'm talking about abortion when the fetus is probably going to be born not right.
Defects.
Defective.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Right. And this has been a very contentious issue in Poland for a while now. So like for the past 5 years, the feminist movement has been, really strong, and they were trying to push a law similar to this a couple of years ago. And there was huge protests. And in the end, there was like a compromise that, lasted for a couple of years, but really was just swept underneath the rug. And now the whole coronavirus, destroying the world, the main, the government chose that this is the right time to head back to that issue, and that was done. It wasn't done overnight, but it was done very quickly, in the sense that on Wednesday night, on Wednesday no one was expecting anything, and then on Friday, the law was passed, and riots too strong of a word, but huge protests started in Warsaw, and now they've been going on for 3 or 4 days. With the whole, right now, I live in Warsaw, and the whole city has been blocked by cars, and no one's moving anywhere.
And even we should say before this law got passed a few days ago, it was already abortions were already mostly illegal. Is that correct?
Yeah. I think in terms of like other European countries, I think we've got one of the most strict laws when it comes to abortion. But I think the main issue with this, and this is going to be a very subjective opinion. This is, you're talking to
That's what we go for here.
Okay, excellent. Well, I just like to underline that I was playing, my PlayStation the whole day, so I'm not an expert. But
you are
really
compared to us.
Yes.
Well, listen, what you got to understand is that the political situation in Poland for the last 10, 15 years, it's been basically about two political parties. And I don't know if you guys want to go as far as I'm going with you, but I'll give you the gist of Polish politics in 2 or 3 minutes, and then you'll understand what's happening now a bit more, right?
Good.
Perfect.
About 15 years ago, did you ever hear about the Polish president dying in an air crash? Do you know what I'm talking about here?
No.
Okay.
Oh, we did not even.
Please tell us.
Okay, so like 15 years ago, this is you got 2 guys in Poland, twins. There's identical twins. One is the president, and one is the leader of the political party that is about to get into power.
They're like the Winklevoss twins.
Wait, so they're opposition?
Identical twins. No. Identical twins working together. One's already the president, and the other one's, trying to become the prime minister, right? And these identical. Yeah, it's that's what I was saying. But the president dies in an air crash. And the plane was going to Russia to commemorate like a very other important historical event that is very contentious, which I'm not going to get into because it's going to be bringing us back to the 1920s with this one, 1940s. So the president dies, and now the other twin is kind of saying, listen, the Russians, not only did they kill the president, they also killed my brother, right? So the whole kind of political conversation for the past 10, 15 years has been whether the president was killed by the Russians, whether, the twin, his brother has been killed. He's always been saying that it was the Russians. That was the narrative for like 5 or 10 years. Then they get into power with that narrative, let's say. I'm simplifying it a lot. And now this political party that is kind of based on this kind of, on an angle where, we're always the victims, there's always an enemy, the classic kind of populist way of, using power, right? Or I don't know if I'm, maybe missing.
Is this the Law and Justice Party you're talking about?
That's the Law and Justice Party, yeah.
Okay, so they were basically founded in a guy dying, and a
continue.
And is this kind of like a conspiracy or maybe a theory that he was killed by the Russians? And so
it was the political party wasn't founded then. I mean,
Okay.
it existed, but it was again, I'm missing a word, the counter party, not the one in power, but the opposition.
Yeah.
Opposition.
The opposition, yeah. And once the president died, in fact, they didn't win the first election afterwards. So that's also very interesting. People forget that they didn't win the first one afterwards. The main, the PO is the other political party, won it then. And then for 4 years, they were saying, like, these guys, not only are they in power, they're also not doing anything about my brother that was killed by the Russians. And that narrative lasted for 4 years. And then they got in power. And now it's 10 years later with these two political parties always, locking heads. But right now it's so divided, Poland's so divided that it's really us against them. And that narrative has been present, even stronger in the last couple of days. And, it's been just mounting for years.
Who's the one with the twins? Is that Duda or that's the
Kaczynski. So right now in Poland, this is also like almost like a James Bond villain plot twist. But you've got the main guy in Poland he doesn't have like an official position almost. Because you got the president, that's Duda. You got the prime minister, that's Morawiecki. But they all belong to a political party which is ruled by Kaczynski.
and
Kaczynski he's the guy. He's the puppet master.
Kaczynski.
Exactly. But he lives like in a fucking house down the road from here. So he's not
smart.
like he lives in an ordinary house. He doesn't have a family. He's like this big fucking thing with his cat. He has a cat. He loves cats, and he rules the fucking world. Like he's
Kaczynski.
Shout out Kaczynski.
So if kids in your neighborhood are trick or treat, or you don't go trick or treat, but if you're walking around the neighborhood, you can see him. You can see him out and about this week, or you just see him out.
He's like an evil Warren Buffett.
Right now there's huge protests underneath his house. So I don't think you'll see see a lot of him. But he's basically
down at the grocery store.
Yeah, almost. I mean, I've never personally seen him, but it's not uncommon to see him.
Yeah. So he's the kingmaker.
He's the puppet master. He's definitely So he's the puppet master.
What happens kind of like in the society that allowed for this? It seems like, I mean, they're called the Law and Justice Party. It seems like a nationalistic party. They're anti-gay, they're anti-Jew, anti-German. What was going on in society that allowed them to come to power? Was it like, was the economy bad or something, or kind of?
I'd go even further. I'd make you guys realize that Poland, historically, I mean, even geographically, it's between Germany and Russia, basically. There's a couple of countries in between, but it's where you've got fucking huge, Eastern European influences, Western European influences, Germany, France, like the continental Europe, and then we're very close to Russia. And we've always been like that state where if these guys are fighting, they're fighting at our place. You know what I mean? There's a comedian in Poland who has that joke where he kind of says something along the lines that, we're not great at war, we lose them, but we're great at hosting wars. If you guys want to have a war, it comes to our place, and it's,
Stalin and Hitler originally agreed to, split up Poland. That's how they could, keep the peace for a bit, and then
and so pretty much, and that's been, and the wars between kind of Germany, Russia, Poland in the mix, fucking Austria, the Habsburg Empire earlier, that's been like ever since Poland started. I mean, that's always been the case where we're kind of going here, going there, fucking doing something with these guys, then going against these guys. It's always been like a war-ridden history. So with that in mind, after World War II, Poland kind of goes closer to Europe. I mean, it's communism. Fuck, this is actually a lot of.
No, this is fine, man. This is what we do on our show. Yeah? Don't worry about it.
Okay.
There's no
after World War.
We like to make fun of our listeners, but they are actually smart. So you can go as deep as you want to go. People are interested.
World War II happens, and then communism happens in Poland. So we're forced to be Russian, right? So everyone, they allow us to have our own language, but it's all Russified. There's propaganda everywhere, and everyone fucking hates communism. There's nothing in the shops. Everyone's trying to get rid of communism. And then in the 90s, Solidarność comes about, which is a movement, one of the greatest historical movements, because peacefully we managed to get rid of communism in Poland. There was never any war. There was never any violence. It just kind of happened. Through a series of mistakes by the Communist Party, through the unification of workers, And at some point, the Communist Party said, let's have a free election, because they thought they're going to win it, and they actually lost terribly. And then there's a period of change where from the 90s to, let's say, the early 2000s, we switched from a communist state to a let's say Western European like a culture, whatever, for lack of words, right? So within those changes in that, to answer your question, how did it happen that a right-wing government came into power? It's always been, traditionally, historically, we've always been fucking a bit of here, a bit of there, right? So it's not as if, oh my God, this is the first right-wing government we've ever had. What's happening? It's always kind of fucking been around. And, as the world is, changing fucking everywhere, you got right-wing governments coming into power, and Poland's no different, right? So it's, to answer your question, why Poland has a right-wing government, fucking why does the world? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. So maybe the opposite. Why did Russia? I mean, why did Poland not have a right-wing government? Maybe for like that little gap in the middle. Would that be a better question? If it seems like the norm is to have a right-wing government.
I wouldn't say it's the norm to have a right-wing or a left-wing. I'd say the norm is that it fluctuates. That would be the norm, right?
Yeah.
I think right now, in the last, I'm only 27, so I only know Poland, past the communist times, which were in the 90s, right? So I was born in communist Poland, but I don't really remember it. My brothers that are 10 years older, they kind of have some memory of it. I'm from the kind of newer generation that has had it all. So people my age are generally more left-wing, more kind of Europe-centered, but there's still that clash of generations, right? Where the older people, they don't speak English, they speak still Russian. There's a huge difference between urban Polish people and rural Polish people. The guys, who don't live in cities, those are the main people voting for the PiS, which is a law and justice political party. Right. So there's a huge divide in Poland based on city and rural, age and different generations locking heads.
And if you're the Law and Justice Party, then is still angry at Russia, correct? Because they
Pretty much. In fairness, all of Poland hates Russia.
Right. So that's the interesting thing, because it's a Trump-like figure, but they're against Russia. Then I guess you'd be pro. I mean, you're a member of NATO, Poland. Yeah. Right. So it's still like a Western Europe. Even in the Law and Justice, how do they feel about the rest of Europe then? So that there's a lot of benefits from being in the European Union, but their general angle is to kind of fuck Europe, do it our own way. Right. In general, but obviously it has some nuances. Sometimes it's better to be a bit more European. Sometimes it's not. But in general, it's fucking Poland, and we're Poland, and fuck the rest.
So what is this just that you've seen? What are like the real life differences from say 2013, 14, before Duda? Am I saying that correctly?
Duda, yeah, the president. Yeah.
Before the president came into power, and then now 5 years later. I don't know. A lot of the articles we've read, they said, "Oh man, this is the end of freedoms, democracy. The end of democracy." The fact that he's won again because he has, is it 3 more years or 5 more years? I'm not exactly sure.
I think he's just won it like 2 or 3 months ago, so it's another 5 years for him. But to again underline that point that I was making, that Duda and everyone else, they're just puppets. So it doesn't really matter. Like, he won it, and that was the closest one we got to. Because the Law and Justice Party has been in power for, I think, 6 or 7 years, let's say. And this one was like the election for the president, which is the most highly attended election usually. But it's not the most important, because the president doesn't really have too much power in Poland.
The prime minister has more.
Yeah, the prime minister does, yeah. But the prime minister, again, as I said, is part of the political party, is ruled by... Yeah, which is ruled by fucking Kaczynski. So pretty much everyone just answers to Kaczynski, and he sits at home with his cat.
Why doesn't Kaczynski run himself? He just doesn't. He likes to be with his cat.
That's an interesting question. He did. He lost, and that's because he's a little bit too aggressive in terms of his image. So he's an older guy. He doesn't have a family. It's easier to sell. Like the prime minister, the president. They're younger dudes that have a nicer smile. Yeah. They look better in a suit.
No one wants a guy with a cat to be their president.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Yeah,
a single man. My wife told me this a long time ago. She would never date a guy when she was single who just had a cat. Like, nobody wants a single man with a cat. So that's the.
This is almost. This reminds me of like Steve Bannon type figure, who is kind of for a little while was the puppet master behind Trump. He got kicked out of the Trump team.
Trump turned on him.
But or like our who was Cheney, like a Dick Cheney or a Baker, James Baker type. One of these people who's in the shadows but actually ruling the government. Okay, so then Kaczynski, what's his? Where did he come from? What's his story?
So his angle, as I said, his brother he died in the air crash.
Oh, he's the one. Sorry, I didn't realize he's the same guy. Okay,
he's avenging his death. Guys, by the way, I'm aware of how confusing this is. I'm trying to simplify it as much as I can, but also like, don't worry if you're not getting something, then just tell me again, and I'll try to rephrase it a little bit differently. So his brother, excellent.
So where did so let's go to get elected. It seems seemingly this time, Duda, even if he doesn't have much power, he ramped up anti-German, anti-gay, anti-Jewish.
Yeah.
So should we take those one at a time? Like,
okay, definitely anti-gay. Like the whole against LGBTQ. Unfortunately, right now Poland is, you mentioned in your intro the LGBT free zones. That unfortunately, kind of happened in Poland. I don't know if it's still happening.
Yeah, how does it explain how that works exactly?
It seems like it's a third of the country, right?
Listen, guys, it's something that it's almost it's such an easy thing to kind of throw, like, what is this and stuff like that that you like. I don't want you guys to have an image of Poland where fucking are they crucifying gays everywhere? You have like a movement of people who catch on to these topics, and as I said, I mean the world is burning right now. And, you got the pandemic and everything. And instead of talking about the important issues, we're talking about these issues because everyone kind of has an opinion about the fucking gays. You know what I mean? And that way you can, speak and talk and people can get mad at each other. And that's why it's kind of being flashed in, in the narrative. So fucking let's focus. Let's talk about this because everyone's emotional. Everyone has an opinion. And this is something that we can, fight about. Whereas the stuff that we should be discussing is swept underneath the rug. Why am I saying this? What I'm saying is that the LGBT free zones were a thing. I personally never actually saw them. Do you know what I mean? Like I know that there was a newspaper that at some point printed stickers that you can put this sticker on your house, and then your house is an LGBT free zone. You know what I mean? And that was very
where they can't come in.
Where they can't come in. Yeah, but again, it's more of an ideological thing,
symbolic.
Exactly, it's a symbolic thing rather than an actual.
There's no like gates at the town border that is allowing in certain people and not other people.
That's exactly my point. Yeah. So it's all this. The whole war is ideological. Yeah, and I mean, again, you're speaking with let's say a comedian who's traveled the world, who's 27, who lives in Warsaw and stuff like that. Around my community of people, it's as strange as it is to you guys.
Right.
So the way you guys are, looking at me, it's like, this is crazy that it's happening. I'm like with you. I'm like, that's fucking crazy.
Of course. Yeah. We're not attacking. We're just trying to find out.
LGBTQ people in Warsaw, they're just not going to certain areas, I guess, other parts of the. Would you say?
Yeah, I guess so. I guess that's what's happening. Yeah.
Here's a way to maybe phrase the question. Do you, because it's I don't know, the articles we've read about it are like kind of saying what you're saying. I mean, the headline is always LBGT.
Yeah, I can't
get them in a row. Whatever it is.
That's probably the first time I ever listened to letters like that. There's talking.
The Q complicates everything. When it was LGBT, I was all good with it. But then it became LGBTQT. No, I'm not even saying like what it is. I'm just saying like I can't repeat 5 letters in a row.
Does it mean the conspiracy? It doesn't mean QAnon, though.
No, it means queer.
Okay.
LBGT, the zones. It says it's basically the headline is always they have these in Poland. It's a third of the country. Then when you read it, it says these are just towns that have kind of like the local government has kind of decided this. You can't do. Maybe you can't get married. I don't know. These things aren't welcome. Certain things aren't welcome. It does seem like in the whole country, is gay marriage illegal?
Yeah.
Yeah. So when you tour the country, what are your audiences like? Are your audiences vastly different from the rural to the city?
That's an interesting question. I think the main difference for me would be a big city and a small city.
Yeah.
But also I would say that people that, go to stand-up shows in Poland would also have a common denominator, right?
Okay.
So those people would be, in general, I'm saying, like, if we have these people in the whole of the country, these people would be more progressive, would be a bit better educated or whatnot, right? So when I'm touring the country, I guess I like to tour bigger cities, but that's also because, smaller cities don't have Uber yet, right?
Yeah. So that's
so,
where the
like,
audiences are, kind of.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, and also I've got Uber jokes. So when I go to a smaller city, I got to get rid of 2 minutes of my, Uber jokes because they don't get it. You know what I mean? So
you can do an Uber joke in the middle of like nowhere, Wisconsin in America. You can do Uber jokes throughout the United States. So
yeah,
you
guys don't know how lucky you are. I mean, it is a struggle here in Poland, man. You create funny material. Yeah.
I think in the US, because as you know, I started in China, and it would be the same, like certain places. Older Chinese people probably just wouldn't come out for stand-up, almost because they haven't heard about it, maybe. But in the US, stand-up's been around for so long that there's every single type of comedian. So there would be, if this was Poland, there would be 100 comedians who were in favor of the anti-gay zones, and they would go tour those places, and they would make like $1 million a year touring those type of communities.
Anti-gay zone tour.
Yeah.
print the T-shirts. No.
I like that niche.
Number one in
I like that
anti-gay.
niche. I feel like I might transition into this. Are you saying that's where the money's at? I like this.
There's we're not saying anything, but yeah.
So what I'm saying is it's so developed that everybody goes to comedy in America. You don't have to be a certain type of person. So even if you're touring, especially if you're not like famous, but if you're touring like me, you're playing to literally everyone because they're just coming out for a comedy show and they don't know who it might be. But I could see how in places where comedy's a little newer, it's like, do they not come out because they don't know what it is? They don't come out because they're like, oh, it's not for me. What the subjects they're talking about are going to be liberal.
I'd say it's a little bit of everything. Even the infrastructure, like in those smaller places, it's hard to find a venue and stuff like that. So it's even stuff as simple as that. With that said, I mean, Poland doesn't have as much. I don't think there's any right-wing comedian in Poland. Just to touch upon what you said there, where
market.
I know.
Yeah, that's exactly.
Are you listening? You. Yeah. Failing American comedians.
Yeah, brush up on your Polish.
Most of us are liberal, but also I would say this is an interesting. I don't know if what I'm about to say is true, but I think it is. Yeah, I don't think there's too many political comedians in Poland. I don't think the political humor has really hit big in Poland just yet. Like you guys, it's pretty much everything coming out of America right now is political, and it has been for the past 5 years.
It's a bit of a problem in America.
Unfortunately,
a little too much. It's
guys, it's fucking hard to watch.
It's hard to watch. That's
No, it's Peter. It's terrible. It's why.
That's why Turner's so big, because he's not that way. He's not a political comedian.
No one is. Here's the problem. Yeah. Is that 10 years ago, there were political comedians in America. There was about 12 of them, and when you would go to see their show, that's what they were. That's what Jon Stewart was. He was a political comedian. Bill Maher. There's a bunch of them in San Francisco who never really got super famous. Louis Black, right? Yeah. And so you would go being like, these people study politics. They've learned a lot about it. And I'm going to go because I agree with them. And also because they're funny and they have punchlines and they're kind of educated. Now it's like you watch CNN or Fox News for 5 minutes and then all of a sudden you're a political comedian, but you're dumber than the audience on politics. So it's like not everyone needs to be. There is a place for it, but not 90% of comedians. That's my opinion.
Is it part of the reason why people don't do politics, you think? Because are there concerns about free speech issues or the government cracking down or anything? Or is it not?
Free speech is definitely not an issue. I mean, it might be an issue for some people, but not for comedians. It's not a real thing. I mean, sometimes you get in trouble for certain things, but it's not a free speech. It's not as if like censorship. You can't say this, or the government or the police will kick your door in and fucking arrest you. It's not that. I think the actual real answer to that question is because the scene is so young, as in, comedy has been in Poland, around the generation of stand-up comedians that are kind of American stand-up comedians, or
American style.
American style. Yeah. Thank you. That's been, 10, maybe 15 years. So when we started and we were in our early 20s, now we're, in our early 30s, maybe, early 40s. And, personally, I'm 27. I don't give a fuck about politics too much. So it's not something, you don't want to hear a political stand-up routine from a kid who's 27. Do you know what I mean? So all the other guys that are performing right now, they're a little bit older than me, but it's also the same case. So I think we're just too young to be, political comedians. That's my personal opinion about why there isn't political stand-up comedy in Poland.
It makes sense. It's also probably so in the early days of comedy in the US, you were just a comedian because there weren't a lot of comedians. The more comedians there got to be, as almost a business, like you have to target market. Like like say you sell shoes, you also have to be like, do we sell tennis shoes? Do we sell women's high heels? So as a comedian, I think people also kind of naturally went like, well, am I a political comedian? Am I like slapstick? Like what style am I? And then you develop that style so you get that audience.
But that was the next step, right? Right now in Poland, the biggest comedians are the ones that are the most, not specific, but the opposite. The ones that are the most accessible to everyone. The guys who can make a joke and make your dad laugh, your daughter laugh, your brother laugh, or whatever, right? And then the whole family goes, and these guys are fucking making everyone laugh.
Yeah.
And I think the next step after that, in terms of the scene progressing, is that you're going to have comedians that only make these this group of people laugh, group of people.
Frankly, the hardest is that first kind you were just talking about, but then people get more niche when they have to.
Yeah.
But so what about back to the what about the German? Where did the anti-German, like that seemed interesting to us, the anti-German rhetoric that was coming about from
so
Duda.
Again, let's bring it back again to underline the point. Poland's between Germany and Russia. We've always had fucking conflict, right?
Okay.
After World War II, you guys, know the gist of World War II. I'm not going to explain it. Fucking Poland hates Russia. Poland hates Germany. The whole world fucking hates Germany at that point. Poland especially. And then, we've always not liked each other. But personally, what I think has happened is that then we had communism. So, kind of everyone turned towards Russia, and we fucking hate Russia more than we hate Germans, I would say. Right, but that's probably fucking everyone hates everyone here.
It's not refreshing. No, it used to be normally everywhere,
So where does the anti-German rhetoric come from? I mean, it's that one has always been around. To be honest with you, like
so it's an easy string to pull to get form a political platform.
Right.
Yeah.
Speaking of easy strings to pull, there was a lot of talk of also about, Turner mentioned, anti-Jewish, like the Jewish interests are being served by the opposition. And I find that fascinating because there aren't a lot of Jews like in Poland now. I mean, there used to be.
That's strange.
We used to have millions, and now there's like 10 to 20,000 total. So I don't know where does that even work with people? Do people even have opinions on Jews in Poland?
I don't think that's a thing. I mean, it's as much of a thing as it is everywhere. Do you know what I mean? Like the Jews are ruling the world. I think you'll find that in any
that is pretty universal
in the world. It's
pretty hack. It's hack conspiracy.
At this point, I mean, so it exists as much here as it does, let's say, in the States or in any other European country. But it's not a particular issue.
It doesn't really stick.
It doesn't like when we were talking about the LGBTQ. I'm thinking, all right, this is a thing that is fucking, I mean, unfortunately, we're pretty bad in terms of the rest of the countries. We're pretty much pulling them back with this one. But the anti-Jewish thing, I think that's fucking, it's not a real issue here. I don't think. I mean, everyone knows the Jews did it, so we don't need to talk about it.
Guilty as charged. Pretty fun.
Whatever it is.
We do run the world, of course. So I can't let you guys in on the Zoom passcode for the meeting. But
so what about coronavirus? So Duda got coronavirus, right?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, no, he got it, and also he. This is a funny story. You guys follow tennis at all?
Yes, Kaplan, I do a little bit.
Yeah, well, the Polish girl won the.
Oh yeah, she was like 17 years old, right? And she won the French Open. 19.
She's 19.
Yeah, very young. I knew she was young.
She's 19, Your Honor. She was 19. I promise.
Exactly. So I'm gonna look at her. You're right. Okay.
And she's a big star in Poland right now because she's like the first tennis player to win the Roland Garros. Is that how you pronounce it in English?
Yeah, the French Open. Yep.
French Open, and she visited the president to receive a Medal of Honor. and now she's under. Yeah,
Quarantine?
she's also been quarantined. Yeah,
If he kills your best athlete ever,
yeah.
I think it's the first Polish person to ever win a Grand Slam tennis tournament, or at least female. So I'm not sure.
Definitely female. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Actually, fuck it. What am I saying? I know this. Yeah, that's true. I want to say, maybe in the past, in the 20s, this is definitely the first one. Yeah.
Yeah. So that'd be terrible.
What is the Catholic Church? So it's like Catholic Church is like 90% of the people identify as Catholic. Does the Catholic Church have like intense power in Poland, or how powerful is the church?
It's again, that's a nuanced issue. I mean, Poland is 99% of Poland is tall, white, Catholic, fucking and blonde. Do you know what I mean? Like everyone looks like me. There's not much variety.
Not a lot of Kaplans.
Yeah. No, not at all. And
I could be unique there. Let's go.
So in terms of the church, it definitely has too much power.
I guess I'm asking because the articles show that these protests that are going on right now against the abortion thing, they were going into churches yesterday, like Catholic churches, and protesting inside of churches in Poland. So is there some connection between the government and the Catholic Church?
Yeah, the church is always like I don't know how to call this, but like a voting power. Do you know what I mean? Like if you appease the church, you get votes, right?
Makes sense.
in that sense, the church has always influenced. Well, always, in the last 20 years, has been a big influence on politics. Directly, even so, in terms of like, it's not uncommon for a priest to finish a mass by saying, now you guys know who to vote for. Do you know what I mean? Like so even like sometimes mass churches, and again, these masses are attended by masses. Is that
by lots of people?
Yeah, by lots of people. I thought I almost made a joke there.
You did. I got it.
Was it a joke? I wasn't sure. As I was saying, it's like,
yeah.
What are we doing here? Anyway, so these meetings are attended by a lot of people, and within that group, there's also a lot of variety. I got friends that go to church and they're perfectly normal, and they don't appease to that political side of the church. But with that said, as I told you, there's also 100,000 fucking whatever people voting in the rural side. That church is the only thing they got, and when the church tells them to vote for that, that's what they do.
Yeah.
So traditionally, church is against abortion. So this is something that was passed, in accordance with the church, and also. I don't want to dilute this issue, but there's another political party that actually passed this legislation, but that's not really important. And that party is also highly connected with the church. But don't worry, I'm just throwing that as a tidbit, but don't worry about the specifics because we'll get tangled up.
Did it get passed by the government, or it went to the court? It had been passed and the court was ruling on it? Like, how does it work there?
No, so it's the court, which is, theoretically independent from the government. Passed it, but the problem is that the court system is actually being maneuvered to a point where it's not as independent as it should be.
Court packing.
Right? So that's it. That's exactly what's happening. Yeah. So right now, again, I don't want to tell you the numbers, and I don't want people to be like, well, it's not this number or not that number, but let's say fucking 20%, 30% of the guys that are in the court, are politically aligned with the political party that's pushing for something. Does
the political party get to appoint them?
Yeah,
like they do in the U.S. or not?
I think so. Don't quote me on that.
All right, no problem.
I know that the judiciary system is fucked in Poland right now as well. And this is, again, these protests, this movement is also a result of those actions that have been taking place in the last 2 or 3 years, where the judges have been, specific judges have been appointed, specific laws have been changed, and the judiciary system is getting weaker and weaker.
Okay. And then it also seems like the media, part of the current government's goal is to control media as much as possible. Is that coming to fruition? Is that happening?
I mean, there's two, let's say, big TV stations in Poland. One is like the national TV station that is sponsored by the government, and it is hardcore propaganda. Like, it's gotten to a point where it's almost like a comedy propaganda show where, I don't know, I'm trying to think of an example off the top of my head, but pretty much anything you can imagine as like, in terms of like, let's say there's 50 to 100,000 people protesting right now, which would be a fair judgment. Again, that's such a fucking loose call on.
There's a lot of people.
That's fine.
Yeah,
That's fine.
A lot of people.
Don't get bogged down on the details. This is a podcast.
Yeah.
And the main TV platform was during the time of the protest was showing how to fucking handle carrots in the kitchen. You know what I mean? Like they weren't showing the protests, and then when they were describing them, they were saying that there's like 50 to 100 people, and you're going like, that's not even like it's
right. It's like a parody. It's hard so far propaganda. They're like they've almost gone too far.
Exactly.
So is there concern that TV, you guys doing comedy, will be allowed on TV in the future, or is that? I guess if no one's doing political stuff, it doesn't really matter.
I'll go even further with that question. I don't think in Poland, the comedians, if we're switching to comedy questions, I don't think Polish comedians want to be on TV anymore. I mean, for us, YouTube has been, the greatest thing that has happened. Not only has it taught us stand-up, but right now we're blowing up thanks to it. And there's no real motivation to go to TV. The money's not there. The popularity is not there. You got to compromise your material. You're talking with execs that don't know anything about comedy. And we've done it a couple of times. We've done like the Polish Comedy Central shows, and it hasn't been good. You have to, I've got personal stories. This is like a like a thing that we often use as an example. But the guy like who was editing the show at the Polish Comedy Central, there was a comedian on stage, and they were using like audience shots, like from different shows, like so. The crowd is laughing, but the audience isn't. Do you know what I mean? So they're using
it's a different audience.
You hear laughter, but you don't see laughter.
Editing a different
audience. Yeah, and at one point, you had a comedian on stage, and then he was watching himself because he kind of just like he was in the audience watching another comedian, and they used that shot.
He's a seat filler for himself.
That's amazing.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey guys,
and
I'll be back in 1 second. I gotta go to the bathroom real quick. I'll be right back.
Yeah, easy.
So did you but there are independent TV stations, but are those kind of like disappearing, or is that the fear they're going to start to disappear or be less independent because the government's going to appoint people to run them or sell them to Polish interests?
I don't have a TV, and most of my friends don't have a TV anymore, so I'm not really sure what's in terms of other political stations, but the basic narrative is that there's two main ones and a couple of fucking other ones and some private ones in terms of like, some sports ones and whatever, right? But the two main ones is basically TVP, which is the government, which is a load of shit. Like it's unwatchable at this point.
It's like Russian. Have you ever seen the Russian propaganda TV station? I know they talk about it here a lot. It's
often compared.
That's its high watermark that it's shooting for.
Pretty much. Yeah.
They should have awards for that actually. Propaganda awards. It should be like new Oscars. And then in America, Trump would love it if Fox News, which is our extreme, but it's not that extreme. It's like he turns on them, he gets mad at them. They don't fall in line enough for his life.
Yeah, but that's a private one.
It's private run.
Right?
It's technically private run. Yeah. So that's
yeah. The problem here is that it's not private run; it's government run. So it should, that's also another point, that is making it a little bit weird. The other one is a private run, and I'd like to tell you it's more objective. It's definitely, listen, in terms of like, these guys are fucking way down the right. The other guys are, way down the left. And you want to say that it's in the middle. It's not in the middle. These guys are fucked. These guys are a little fucked. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
So
there's no opposition network.
Yeah. No.
And it's interesting though, because I guess you're saying that older people are the ones watching TV. They fall in line. They're the ones more likely to support the Law and Order party. And then younger people, they're just not watching TV anyways. It doesn't matter. They're just, you're on YouTube and it's great for your YouTube channel. And that's pretty much cord cutters. You're all cord cutters, as we call it, people who don't own TVs in America.
So what? So what do we think, or what do you think is going to happen if in the first 5 years, whatever number of things happen with this government, and you said they've been around for 6 or 7 years before Dude does. He's like not so powerful. What does it look like is going to happen in the next 5 years?
Man, it's hard to say. I mean, the world is burning right now, isn't it? It's on fire with everything that's happening. The U.S. elections are going to influence Europe. the coronavirus, what's going to happen there. Like yesterday, I got drunk with my friends, and in a drunken rant, I was thinking that there's going to be a war in 5 years. Like, if you give me a little bit, I'm thinking, I'm being, a little bit of a, I was panicking, drinking and ranting and stuff like that. But, waking up in the morning, I was like, shit, I don't think I'm that wrong. I was hoping I'm going to wake up, shit, what the fuck was I talking about? But I woke up in the morning being like, crap, am I right? Is there going to be a fucking war?
Well, you guys got great training. Wasn't Poland one of the only countries who helped us in Iraq? Didn't you guys? The Coalition of the Willing. You guys went along.
Yeah.
So we gave you top training then, so you're ready to fight.
Yeah, there was a joke in Poland that we're going to stay in Iraq even when you guys leave. So yeah.
Just nicer weather.
Yeah, we again this is something that might interest your viewers, the relationship between Poland and America from Poland's perspective, because that's a strange one as well, because you were saying that Trump loves the law and justice power, and in general, Poland has always loved America, in sense, like every war you've gone to, we're like, fuck yeah, let's go to war with the Americans. But every time, but every time we kind of wanted something, you guys never really came through. Nah, it's never been that great on the other side.
And what about Trump?
I think Trump has actually been the best, because the most contentious issue is the visas. Right. So Polish people, we've got a hard time even entering fucking America. And, in terms of all those troops we've sent to wars and how aligned we've been, in our thinking and stuff, we still, have a very hard time visiting and just fucking, working in America. So I think Trump is the one that actually did anything about it. Because Obama was always like, this is wrong. We got to fix it. I'll see you next time.
Yeah, well, it's because you described yourself and all your countrymen as tall, blonde haired. That's what the look Trump's going for in immigrants. So
excellent. Well, there's, yeah.
I think it's partly, and I apologize, I mentioned the intro, but I grew up, it used to be normal. You'd make Polish jokes in America that you guys weren't bright or anything. That was how we grew up. We always hear these jokes. And I think that stereotypes you negatively, and that's been the problem. So we got to erase that whole image. We got to bring more Polish to America. I support Trump in that.
I never thought that the anti-Polish stereotypes were important, to be honest with you. I don't think they were ever harmful. Polish people are stupid. I think fucking that stereotype is about every nationality. You know what I mean? Polish people are lazy. So are fucking Puerto Ricans, French, fucking Spanish, Chinese, or whatever, right? It's a stereotype that sticks to everyone. So I don't think Poland has been hard done by
Poland has been crying the last 50 years.
That makes me feel better.
Kaplan's grandpa's comments.
He had some good ones. I wish I remembered them.
What about the connection to the EU? This kind of fascinates me. That the EU likes to think of itself as this liberal body, but then how does Poland relate and connect, especially in this, the abortion, or even more so the anti-gay part? What?
So the European Union has been condemning the Law and Justice Party for quite a while right now, but also there's not much they can really do. They're putting maybe some sanctions. They may be saying that this shouldn't be done, but as we said, as I already said a couple of times, the world's burning. Everyone's got their own fucking issue to sort out, right? There's stuff happening in Hungary, the immigrants, the pandemic. You know what I mean? There's Poland is another one of those countries that something fucked up is happening right now. We're strong. I think we're a big part of the European Union, but at the same time, we don't have the Eurozone. Right. So we still use Polish currency. We're a bit here, we're a bit there.
But there's not going to be a Polish Brexit type thing. People like being part of the European Union.
It's not something that's been talked about right now. Will it happen in the next 5 years? Fuck if I know, but it's not an issue. It's not something that's right now being talked about.
You guys don't really have any oligarchs. It's like a Russian thing, but that's the fear that's going to, because you're mentioning what's going to happen in the next 5 years, that this new government's going to start to become that kind of crony oligarch type economy. Is that something you see happening in Poland, or it's rewarding all the friends and it becomes a rich rich oligarch
What-
paradise?
Oligarchy, you mean that like
Yes.
nepotism and all that type of
Yeah,
stuff?
nepotism and like just like it's not a real tradition, I guess, in Poland, no, right? But it's like that's the kind of economy it's kind of devolving into as you start to, everything becomes more like cronyism based on the leader due to
Mhm.
party and everything. Is that
Possibly.
Yeah.
Possibly that could happen. That's one interpretation of the events that could unfold. I mean, again, I'm trying to give you like a good answer to this question. What will happen in the next 5 years? But I honestly think like I don't even know what's going to happen in the next 6 months.
Yeah.
Like with everything that's happening right now in the world, to predict, even ask yourself the question like, where is America going to be in 5 years? Where you're thinking about all the shit that's happening right now, you're like, what? In 5 years we fucking we don't know what's happening on Tuesday. Do you know what I mean?
And like Duda got coronavirus yesterday, so he could be dead in 2 weeks.
That's
Who knows, right?
Yeah, you heard it here first.
As long as the cat man stays home, but yeah.
How's it going with and we'll end on this, I think. How's the country doing overall with coronavirus?
Again, I think to bring back all the points, right? And if we're finishing, I want to underline so I've been understood well about everything that I talked about. So all the protests that are happening right now are a result of events that have been happening in Poland in the last 50, 100 years that have been speeded up by the coronavirus, by the passing of the abortion law and stuff like that, right? But in essence, people are protesting because they just need to protest right now. As in, fucking the economic situation is getting worse and worse. People, are losing their jobs. Shops are fucking closing. Restaurants are closing. People are out on the street and are protesting and are frustrated and are angry and are not being listened to. And the government is fucking steering it all and adding more fucking gunpowder to the fire. Right. So that's what's happening in terms of how we're handling the situation as badly as everyone else. You know what I mean? Like, yeah.
Do you guys wear masks and social distance and all that stuff in Poland still? Are they?
Right now we're basically on lockdown since 5 days, but it's not official because then the government would have to give more money to industries. So it's basically a lockdown, but not really a lockdown.
But you have protests still going on. That's allowed.
There's protests, right now. Shops are open, restaurants are closed, cinemas I think are only 25% capacity. Stand-up shows are 25% capacity, but they can't be happening in a restaurant. So that pretty much means that most of them are going to be cancelled because it's hard, there's no proper venues can't open up for 25%. Usually we would do it in, as I say, restaurant or venues that have food and beer, but those are closed. So stand-up is dying. What else is happening in terms of the coronavirus right now?
I think that's good, man.
I had one other question on the abortion thing real quick. Is it are there like pill, like can you do like the morning after pill and stuff like that? Are there illegal places people get abortion? Like what are people going to do? Is there, I'm trying to say, are they just going to go to other countries? Because people are still going to have abortions. No, I mean, I assume I don't think that's gonna go.
I think the statistic that's being passed around is that there's more than 15,000 abortions done abroad by Polish women yearly. Wow. And they go to the Czech Republic, they go to Germany or in Holland. So yeah, I mean, it's not going to change. I mean, because again, it's not as if I don't really know what the situation was before this law has been passed. You know what I mean? Like it's always been bad, and now you hear this. And honestly, personally, I would have, if they would have told me that this has been the case for the past 3 or 4 years, I'd have been like, yeah, I'm not surprised. But now they're telling me that this has just been, brought in. Yeah. So
you've never knocked anyone up, is what you're saying. Good to know.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. And the morning pill, that's something you can buy in a pharmacy, right? You don't need any.
I think so.
Right?
I don't know either. I've never been in that situation, but I think so. You could just buy it in the pharmacy here, at least in some states.
I don't.
Turner doesn't know.
I don't. Yeah, I don't know why I raised an issue that I have no idea about. To be honest, we could have finished like 2 sentences ago, and it would have been great. And now I just put myself in another.
I think we just go. We buy it. You give it. You make sure the girl takes it. You call her every hour. Did you take it? Did you take it? Okay, good. I'm off the hook.
And that's it, everybody. That's the podcast. Peter Szumowski, thank you so much for doing it, man.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure.
Yes. And where should people go to watch your videos or to find you? What's the best place to find you?
I actually think that if you Google Polish comedian like on YouTube, I'll be the one that comes up. So
you have millions and millions of views, so I
Wow,
don't
you're
doubt
huge.
it.
Yeah.
That's
yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Peter Kaplan. Everybody, $10. Sign up for $10 a month to our Patreon page. We will send you a #1 in Armenia shirt as soon as those get printed. Designs coming next week. Printing coming very soon. Kaplan, that's it. What should we do?
I think we should get lost.
Get lost.